For over a century, professional golf was governed by a simple, ruthless code. You eat what you kill. Legacy wasn't bought. It was earned in the dirt on Sunday afternoons, with the pressure of history breathing down your neck. It was a game of gentlemen, where a handshake meant everything and the history books were worth more than the bank balance. But then, the Jets landed. The rules changed. And suddenly, the sport that prided itself on integrity was ripped apart by a 9-figure question. How much is your soul actually worth? We aren't just talking about a rival tour. We are talking about a hostile takeover that turned heroes into villains and exposed the greedy underbelly of the most polite sport on earth. A civil war didn't just break out. It was bought and paid for. In the last few years, we watched icons of the game. Men we idolized, men whose posters hung on our walls. Look at their fans, look at their history, and then look at a wire transfer. And they chose the money. But the checks have cleared, and a harsh reality is setting in. The private planes are nice, and the music is loud, but something is missing. The applause is quieter. The respect is gone. For 10 specific legends, the decision to defect wasn't just a career change. It was a demolition of their own monuments. They secured the bag, but they might have lost everything else. Who are they? Why did they really leave? And now that the dust is settling, do they regret pulling the pin on the grenade that blew up professional golf? If there was ever a man who embodied the spirit of the American golf fan, it was Phil Mickelson, lefty, the people's champion. For 3 decades, he was the antithesis of the robotic perfection of Tiger Woods. Phil was messy, he was emotional, and he was brilliant. When he won the PGA Championship at age 50, defying time itself, he wasn't just a golfer, he was a living legend. He had ascended to a level of adoration that seemed untouchable. But beneath the smile and the aviator sunglasses, a storm was brewing. While we were cheering for his birdies, dark rumors were swirling in the back channels. We knew Phil liked action. We knew he liked a wager. But nobody knew the scale of the hole he had dug for himself until the reports started surfacing. It wasn't just a few $1,000s on a football game. We're talking about alleged gambling losses that reportedly soared north of $40 million. Suddenly, the image of the wealthy, happy-go-lucky superstar began to crack. The desperate need for liquidity became the driving force behind the biggest betrayal in golf history. It all unraveled with a single, disastrous phone call. In an interview with biographer Alan Shipnuck, Phil admitted everything. He called the Saudi backers scary mother effers. He acknowledged their human rights record, and then came the sentence that would haunt him forever. He said he was using them as leverage to reshape the PGA Tour. He wasn't a revolutionary fighting for the little guy. He was a mercenary using blood money to strong-arm the institution that made him a star. When those quotes hit the press, the fallout was nuclear. Sponsors dropped him faster than a bad habit. Callaway, KPMG, Workday, brands that had stood by him for decades, vanished overnight. Phil didn't just leave the tour, he was exiled. The image of the king of Augusta hiding in isolation while his peers celebrated without him was the first sign that the money came with a terrible price. He got his reported $200 million signing bonus, but look at him now. The joy is gone. His recent performances have been abysmal, often finishing near the bottom of limited fields. He spends his time on Twitter arguing with random users, trying to convince the world he's happier than ever. But the eyes don't lie. He burned down his own house to collect the insurance money, and he's been living in the ashes ever since. But if Phil was the architect of the chaos, the next man on our list was supposed to be the steady hand that guided Europe through the storm. Instead, he took the money and ran, leaving a knife in the back of an entire continent. For a European player, there is no higher sanctity than the Ryder Cup captaincy. It is the culmination of a career. Henrik Stenson, the Iceman, the champion golfer of the year, was given this honor. He looked the European board in the eye, signed a contract stating he would not defect to a rival league, and accepted the role. He lied. Weeks after accepting the captaincy, rumors started to swirl. The LIV recruiters were circling with a check reported to be around $50 million. For a guy in his mid-40s whose game was declining, it was a lot of cash. The speculation points to a financial disaster from years prior. Reports suggest Stenson was heavily impacted by the Stanford financial Ponzi scheme, losing millions. The LIV offer was a guarantee that he would never have to worry about money again. The announcement came like a punch to the gut. Stenson was stripped of his captaincy effective immediately. It was a humiliation rarely seen in sports. He wasn't just fired, he was erased. He traded the chance to be a legend in Rome, to be the man who lifted the trophy, for a signing bonus and a spot on a team named the Majestics. When the Ryder Cup kicked off, Stenson was nowhere to be found. He watched from home as Luke Donald, the man who replaced him, led the team to a resounding victory. Stenson secured his bank account, but he permanently stained his resume. He will forever be remembered not as the Open champion, but as the captain who quit. Yet, while Stenson was quiet and calculated in his exit, our next legend decided to burn the bridge with a flamethrower. Sergio Garcia has always been an emotional roller coaster, but for decades, we forgave his tantrums because he was a Ryder Cup giant, the all-time leading point scorer. But when the LIV rumors started, the mask slipped. The incident that sealed his fate happened on the course at the Wells Fargo Championship. Frustrated by a ruling, Sergio was caught on a hot mic ranting, "I can't wait to leave this tour. Just a couple more weeks until I don't have to deal with you anymore." It was petulant. It was childish. And when he finally made the jump, he didn't go quietly. He went to war. He lashed out at the PGA Tour and destroyed his relationship with Rory McIlroy. The two had been close friends, attending each other's weddings, but the money drove a wedge between them that turned into a public feud. The tragedy of Sergio Garcia is that he realized too late what he had actually lost. As the 2023 Ryder Cup approached, the reality set in. He wasn't invited. Desperate, he reportedly tried to pay off his fines to the DP World Tour at the last minute, offering to write a check for hundreds of thousands of pounds, just to be considered for the team. But the door was shut. You can't buy your way back into a family you walked out on. Sergio proved that you can have all the money in the world, but if you treat people like enemies, you'll end up alone. If Phil was the face of the American betrayal, Lee Westwood and Ian Poulter were the heart and soul of Europe. They weren't just golfers, they were institutions. Westwood was the former world #1. Poulter was the postman, the man who delivered points when it mattered most. But when the LIV checkbook opened, the passion evaporated. They didn't just leave, they cashed in their legacy for a retirement annuity. And the tragedy isn't just that they left, it's how quickly they became irrelevant. Look at the 2025 season. While their former teammates were battling for majors, Westwood and Poulter were propping up the rear of the LIV League table. They are now stuck on a sinking ship, playing exhibition golf, while the rest of the world has moved on. They traded the chance to be future captains for a paycheck, and now they are just two rich guys playing golf in shorts while history is written by someone else. The older guys leaving? We get it. It's a pension plan. But Cameron Smith was different. He wasn't washed up. He was the champion golfer of the year. He had just stared down Rory McIlroy at St. Andrews and won the Claret Jug with one of the greatest putting performances in history. He was 29 years old. He was arguably the #1 player on the planet. When he defected, it was the biggest blow to the establishment. But fast forward to 2026, and look at the cost. Cameron Smith didn't just change tours, he vanished. The numbers are terrifying. In 2022, he was world #2. Today, he has plummeted to 333rd in the world. He ended the 2025 season missing 6 consecutive cuts. The mullet, once the most feared sight on a leaderboard, has become a ghost. He traded his prime years for guaranteed money, but the competitive rust has eaten him alive. While Scotty Scheffler is carving his name into history, Cam Smith is playing 54-hole shotgun starts, and his game has softened because of it. He is the ultimate cautionary tale. You can buy a private jet, but you can't buy competitive edge. And then there's the villain, Patrick Reed. Captain America. In the old world, Reed was the guy we loved to hate. He thrived on the booze. But since joining LIV, he hasn't just become a villain, he's become a punchline. Reed didn't handle his exit with grace. He handled it with subpoenas. In a move that shocked even his critics, Reed filed a $750 million defamation lawsuit against golf commentators and journalists, claiming they had conspired to destroy his reputation. He tried to sue his way into respect. It backfired spectacularly. In July 2025, the courts tossed the lawsuit out, dismissing his claims completely. He didn't just lose, he was publicly humiliated. On the course, incidents like Teagate, where he flicked a tee at Rory McIlroy like a petulant child, showed a man unraveling. He went from being a Masters champion to a guy known for lawsuits and temper tantrums on a tour nobody watches. The silence surrounding Patrick Reed today is the loudest sound in golf. Bryson DeChambeau was supposed to be the disruptor. He bulked up, he broke the physics of the game, and he won the US Open. He was the era of Bryson. But then, he took the money and became the face of the antitrust lawsuit against the PGA Tour. He traded Sunday duels for YouTube content. He went from being a feared competitor to a golf YouTuber who happens to play professionally. Sure, the videos get views, but his competitive legacy is a blurry mess. And then there is Dustin Johnson, the cool kid, the dominant force. When DJ joined LIV for a reported $125 million, his famous apathy turned into complete indifference. Since cashing that check, the edge is gone. The 2024 and 2025 major seasons were a disaster. He missed cuts, he finished back of the pack, and worse, he didn't seem to care. He proved the critics right. Without the pressure of legacy, he had no reason. And finally, the heartbreak, the one that hurt the most. Jon Rahm. Rahm was the chosen one. He was the staunch defender of history. He is on video, on the record, stating, "I don't play for money, I play for history." He criticized the LIV format, He pledged his loyalty. He was the world number one, the Masters champion, the man who was supposed to carry the torch. And then, everyone has a price. Reports suggest it was upwards of $500 million, $500 million to swallow his own words. But watch Jon Rahm now. Watch his body language. He doesn't look like a man who won the lottery. He looks like a man serving a sentence. He has been vocal about missing the PGA Tour venues. He has complained about the music. He has openly wished he could play in the tournaments he abandoned. He is the richest golfer in history, yet he seems the most miserable. Rahm's move proved that even the most principled legacy can be bought, but it also proved that money cannot buy satisfaction. He wanted to have his cake and eat it too, but he's finding out that $500 million tastes remarkably like ash when nobody is watching you eat it. So here we are, 10 legends, 10 bank accounts that are fuller than they could have ever imagined. But at what cost? Phil Mickelson lost his reputation. Stenson lost his captaincy. Sergio Garcia lost his best friend. Cam Smith lost his prime. And Jon Rahm lost his word. They told us they were growing the game. They told us it was about innovation. But as we look back at the wreckage of the last few years, the truth is much simpler. They didn't grow the game. They sold it. They traded the roar of the Sunday crowd at Augusta for the quiet hum of a private jet. Years from now, when the checks have cleared and the logos have faded, history will not ask how much money they made. It will ask what they stood for. And for these 10 men, the answer will always be the same. They stood for the highest bidder. They secured the bag. But in the process, they lost the only thing that actually matters in sports: immortality. Was it worth it? I'll let you decide.